Okay, Wildcats, today we're going to journal on page 55, rational function inverses. 4 ways to find the inverse, f inverse of x. 1. Graph, reflect over the y equals x line. 2. Table, switch x and y. 3. Algebraic, switch x and y and resolve for y. 4. Composition of functions. When f of g of x equals x, and g of f equals g of f of x equals x, when the result of f of g and g of f is x, then f of x and g of x are inverses. And a special note, with inverses, domain and range will switch. And with inverses, asymptotes will switch. Okay, if you would, finish up your notes. Okay, now your notes are complete. Let's take a look at the examples. All right, so we are going to graph the function, or at least I'm going to graph the function in purple, and I'm going to graph the inverse in yellow. Okay, so we're going to use some x values, and I'm going to use -1 and 1. Okay, so f of -1, that means I'm substituting -1 in for x, so that's 1 divided by -1 plus 2. Well, that's 1 divided by -1 is -1 plus 2 is 1. Okay, and then f of 1. So that's 1 divided by 1 plus 2, which equals 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and graph our points. So -1, 1, and 1, 3. So 1, 3. Okay, now we need to look at our asymptotes. So here we set the denominator equal to 0, so x equals 0. And we see here that our horizontal asymptote has increased to 2, so it's y equals 2. So x equals 0. And y equals 2. Okay, now once you have the asymptotes graphed and the points, you see that the point tells you where the curve is. So since the point isn't here, it's between these asymptotes. And since the point is here, we know our curve lies between these asymptotes. Okay. Now, for the inverse, it's very simple. We switch the x and y. So the f of x or the y's were 1 and 3, so now the x is 1 and 3. And the x's were -1 and 1. Now the f of x is -1 and 1. Okay, so we have a point at 1, -1. So 1, -1. And 3, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, now we have to look at the asymptotes. So the asymptote switch, so that means x equals 2 and y equals 0. So x equals 2. And y equals 0. Oh, I'm sorry. That's y equals 2. X equals 2. What am I talking about? And y equals 0. Okay. Now, it's a little hard to see, so you have to think, well, it lies between here and here, so our curve is right here. And here. It's a little messy because you have lots of asymptotes, lots of curves. Okay. Now let's take a look at example 2. Okay, so we're going to evaluate the function at -3 and -1. So f of -3 is equal to 1 divided by -3 plus 2 minus 3. Well, that is 1 divided by -1 minus 3 is -4. And now f of -1. So that's 1 divided by -1 plus 2 minus 3. Well, that's 1 divided by 1 is 1 minus 3 is -2. Okay, so let's graph those points. So -3, -4. And -1, -2. Now here we have this for the asymptote, we have to find out what makes this 0. Well, we know that -2 plus 2 is 0, so x equals -2. And here we see our horizontal asymptotes move down to -3, so y equals -3. Okay, so x equals -2. So -1, -2. And y equals -3, so -1, -2, -3. Okay, so we see that our point here, so our curve is here. And our point here, so our curve is here. Okay, now we know that for inverses, the x and y switch, so this becomes -4, -2, -3, -1. So we go -1, -2, -3, -4, -1, -2, -3. Let me double check. -1, -2, -3, -4, -1, -2, -3. And then -2, -1, -2, -1. Okay, you can see that it's getting kind of messy here. So then our asymptotes are x equals -3 and y equals -2. So -1, -2, -3. And y is -2. So -1, -2. I'll tell you, this is my least favorite graphing to do because it's so messy. Okay, so you have to pay close attention where the curve is. So x is -3, so -1, -1, -2, -3, and y is -2, so your curve lies between here. And then here again, -3, -2, so our curve lies here. You can see how very messy that is. Okay, go and finish up example 2. All right, let's take a look at example 3. Okay, find the inverse. So to find the inverse, You switch x, well, first of all, let's write f of x as y, and then switch x and y. So x equals 1 divided by y minus 2 plus 3. I think I'm going to use black pen so you can see where the fraction is. Okay, now next is we're going to subtract 3 from both sides, so that's x minus 3 equals 1 divided by y minus 2. Okay, now divide this by 1 so we can cross multiply. So then you get x minus 3 times y minus 2 equals 1. Okay, now we need to divide x minus 3 by both sides. So then let's just bring our work up to here. So then you have y minus 2 equals 1 divided by x minus 3. And then add 2 to both sides. So y equals 1 divided by x minus 3 plus 2. Okay, go ahead and finish up example 3. All right, let's take a look at example 4. Okay, so we're going to change f of x to y and then switch x and y. So x equals negative 1 divided by 2y. Okay, now we're going to divide this by 1 and cross multiply. So you have x times 2y equals negative 1. Okay, now I really didn't show the space here, but I'll show it here. Really, you're going to divide both sides by x. Okay, so then you get 2y equals negative 1 divided by x. And then you divide both sides by 2. Now, when you divide by a fraction, you flip and multiply. So that flips and multiplies. So then you're left with, that becomes 1. You have y equals negative 1 divided by 2x. All right, go ahead and finish up example 4. All right, let's take a look at example 5. Okay, so again, change f of x to y, and then switch x and y. So then x equals 1 divided by y plus 4. Okay, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So you have x minus 4 equals 1 divided by y. Now we're going to divide this by 1 and cross multiply. So then you're left with y times x minus 4 equals 1. Divide that by both sides. So y equals 1 divided by x minus 4. Okay, go ahead and finish up example 5. All All right, example 6. Change f of x to y and then switch x and y. So x equals negative 1 divided by 2 times y plus 4. Divide this by 1, cross multiply. You have 2x times y plus 4 equals negative 1. Divide 2x by both sides, so you have y plus 4 equals negative 1 divided by 2x. Subtract 4 from both sides, so y equals negative 1 divided by 2x minus 4. Okay, go ahead and finish up your